Welcome to the Startup to Exit podcast, where we will bring you world-class entrepreneurs and VCs to share their hard-earned success stories and secrets. This podcast has been brought to you by TIE Seattle. TIE is a global nonprofit that focuses on fostering entrepreneurship. TIE Seattle offers a range of programs, including the Go Vertical Startup Creation Weekend, TIE Entrepreneur Institute, and the TIE Seattle Angel Network. We encourage you to become a TIE member so you can gain access to these great programs. To become a member, please visit www.seattle.tie.org.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Exit, a really exciting one. This is the continuation of our Gen AI series, and this is the fourth one that we are going to record and release for you. A very exciting guest from a very exciting Seattle company. I will let Shirish do the introduction, but prior to that, thank you all for supporting us and continuing to subscribe. Please let all your friends know. We are available on all platforms where podcast is available. My name is Gowri Shankar, for those who are the first-time listeners. With my co-host Shirish Nadkarni, I serve along with him on the board of TIE Seattle. Shirish is a serial entrepreneur, much like me, but he also has the distinction of being a serial author. He has two books. I hope you buy both his books, the latest being from Winner Take All, his first one being From Startup to Exit. Thank you to TIE Seattle for producing this show and being a big supporter of us. Over to you, Shirish, to introduce our guest and take it away.
Thank you, Gowri. Very pleased to have our guest today, Sudarshan Chitre from iCertis. Sudarshan is the SVP of Product for iCertis, a contract lifecycle management company based out of Bellevue or Seattle, Washington. Sudarshan brings over 25 years of experience in developing data and AI products. He's worked for companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Oracle, as well as many innovative startups. He actually holds 10 patents in the fields of databases, data, and IoT. Currently, he leads the AI product and engineering team at iCertis. So, welcome, Sudarshan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here
Great.
today.
Great. So, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about your career. You've had quite a varied career working on the engineering side at Microsoft and Amazon and a little bit at Oracle. Then you had your own startup. After that, you were a CEO, and then you took on engineering and then product role at iCertis. So, be helpful if you could introduce yourself and talk about your career and how you ended up at iCertis.
Oh, definitely. It's been fun. It's been over about the last. I think of it in three parts. My first part of my career is very much, it's as an engineer. Started as a software developer. Came to Bellevue to work for Microsoft in '97. Spent the first 1/3 of my career just learning the how of it. Just building software, worked in Windows, file systems, databases, a lot of disparate systems, built some of the early Azure services at Microsoft. And as a natural progression, kind of grew to leading engineering teams and product teams. I think the second part of the career was like kind of moving out from an IC engineer to kind of leading teams and moving to other companies, getting a multi-company experience, and the last few years has been in smaller companies, more startups. I did a couple of the ones where it was 2%, starting from 2% startup, some post Series A, and now with iCertis is we are I would say we are a startup from the way we work, but we're pretty large for a startup. We're not public yet, but we are getting there. How I got to iCertis, I worked in AI in my previous startup, which was also a Seattle-based startup, Kensai, which we had an exit. We worked in AI, so I spent several years applying AI in healthcare, and so after that phase was over, I was looking for staying within AI, and with what's happening with Gen AI, you can't sit on the sidelines. So when I saw the opportunity to work at iCertis, I was really excited to join forces.
That's great. So at iCertis, you manage both product and engineering. Can you talk a little bit about your role there?
Yeah, so I'm SVP for AI, and what we're doing with iCertis is we're gonna, since it's an iCertis has had AI products for a while. From 2018, I believe, was the first AI product that was launched in at iCertis. Uh, but with Gen AI, we're looking at things in a new way, saying how can we look at the problems and apply Gen AI in a in a completely different way of what does this technology bring and how do we apply it to the problems we're trying to solve. And it is to do that we're going to carve out an organization which includes product and engineering and separately from the platform teams. And so I head the combined product and engineering org. I report to our CTO and co-founder Manish. And so we are running it as a unit, so we can run fast and we can build more AI, Gen AI based products to the market sooner.
Okay, great. So let's start with some basics about what iCertis does. I remember when I used to work for large companies like Microsoft and then BlackBerry. Contract management was essentially exchanging documents over email, contracts over email. Redlining them. Negotiating the contracts with your vendor or your partner, and then I would literally file it away in my file system. I'm sure the legal department would have a document management system or some kind of a filing system to file it. That was the extent of contract management.
Yeah.
Uh, so tell us a little bit about what iCertis does and why do we need a solution like iCertis? I understand it costs, for large enterprises can be in the millions of dollars. That's a pretty expensive purchase. What does
Yeah.
at a basic level, what does iCertis do?
Yeah, good question. And I think the way I think about it in a simple sense is, as a business, you're either buying something, you're selling something, you're hiring employees, or even if you're, signing a lease at the place that where you work, everything that you do is an contract with another party. It's an agreement. It's you have decided to have a set of rules that will govern your business relation. And so contract is really capturing that intent of how are we going to do business together. And so, yes, it is in a document. Yes, there's a lot of legalese in it, but really, what it serves is it really gives you the rules of engagement in terms of how are we going to conduct the business when we work together, when we buy from you, when we sell to you. When are you going to deliver? Are there guarantees? Are there penalties? Are there going to be volume discounts, rebates? And so it can start very simple, but it can get complex and nuanced, especially in larger enterprises. So what iCertis does is it looks at this, how can we help businesses uh, do two things. One is how can we help them memorialize this intent that they are looking to do business with all of these products. And this can be thousands of contracts a month that enterprises can do. It can go to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of contracts. So we're talking about large number of these agreements between two parties. So one of the things iCertis does is, what is the life cycle of this? Sometimes it's many years and there are amendments and so on. So if you think of it from the intention that started when two parties shook hands to then we memorialize it, what's the process of that? You send back and forth documents, you do redlining, negotiating until the point you get to a signature. But then post signature also, are we conducting our business that is in line with what the intent was? And so if you think of the whole life cycle, that's where iCertis software comes in. It allows you to draft a contract, negotiate a contract, sign a contract, manage obligations, to look at the business operations that are happening and see if they're in line with the contract. If you have further amendments, take care of those. and understand the relation between all of these documents and data points. So it is really looking at that holistically, and that's the CLM space. And like you rightly pointed out, all of this is fairly new. It didn't exist, and iCertis was one of the companies that helped shape how to think about CLM in a structured way. So it used to be set of documents stored in a file system and forgotten after they are signed, and unless you have to go. But with this, with as we are moving towards uh, more, I mean, obviously it's all digital, but the expectation is with new changes and regulations and other factors coming in, the expectation for you to stay compliant is also a big one. So it's not just about doing this contract and negotiating on the pricing, but can you step back and look at all of your contracts together? Does the system allow you to do that? And by asking questions like, what is my exposure, supplier side exposure? What is my risks? Are there pockets where my suppliers are concentrated? And so if there is a supply chain disruption, am I more likely to get impacted? There are a lot of these holistic things that become very interesting from a business continuity and risk management perspective as well. So all of this makes it important to have a really good contract management system at the core of your business. If you're not able to sign contracts, you will not be able to run your business very quickly. And so, although it's kind of one of those back office, things, it's not what everyone talks about every day. But it is really one of those things that allows your business to run smoothly, and you will know, just like security, you will know if it's not working well.
So, is there a workflow component to iCertis where the different parties that are working together, negotiating the contract, that manages the entire workflow between the elements?
Yeah, absolutely. From the drafting, then from the approval chain, and then also which in large enterprises, different people are responsible for different types of contracts. But also different people are responsible for different parts of the contract. So sometimes your expertise in this SLA piece has to go to this team, this risk and insurance piece has to go to this other set of teams. So there is workflow managing all of that. Who needs to approve? When something changed and a red line came back, who needs to go look at it? Are these standard variations of our clause? For example, like if some clause came back and said, the other party said, like, we need to reword it, are there standard alternatives that from the library of the enterprise that are already signed off on that you can pick from? Or does this change need an escalation and a sign off from an approver? So there's a lot that goes into streamlining that workflow that happens within the software.
I see. And then you have a library of standard language for different clauses that you can that lawyers can insert and so forth. And
and that makes it like easier for these negotiations because you have a library to draw from versus coming up with new clauses on the fly.
I see. So now, once a contract is signed, what is the process? How does the CLM system manage the process so that everybody knows what the obligations are and you're tracking against those obligations?
Yeah, and I'll here's where I'll kind of maybe bring in selfishly what I think is the big opportunity here for Gen AI and AI, and what I'm super excited about right now. I think there are traditionally there have been lots of applications that extract for example, obligations from contract and then manage them, and we have that as well, and we have obligation management workflows where you extract, okay, these are all these obligations that we have signed up for as part of this contract. Now it's signed, let's manage them. What are the deadlines? What are our deliverables? Are we on track or not? But I think there is a lot that is missed today. And I think because it's not easy to always stay in the intent of the contract, because you need an interpreter in the between many times, because a lot of these things are, am I allowed to do this? Like, let's say you're ordering something as an incremental purchase order you're creating, or you're making a decision at the procurement side, and the sales team is trying to make a decision, trying to sell something and maybe bundle something. is this in line with the contract we have in place? And that many times is hard to answer because that requires some judgment, that requires some interpretation and understanding. And I think what is exciting is now with the large language models being able to better understand that, now you can unlock that value, like really understand the nuances that are not only in one contract, but you take what's in one contract and you combine with what else is happening in your enterprise. And then you can really do some of those things where your post-signature activities can be improved and can be more efficient and in line with what's in the contracts.
Right, right. But essentially, if I were to summarize what a contract lifecycle management software does or service, there's a workflow element to manage the creation of the contract. There's a library of standard clauses that can be inserted and managed and so forth. And then there's a post-contract piece, which is managing the obligations. Does that cover all the elements of a CLM, or am I missing something?
Yeah, it's managing obligations, is managing compliance, regulations, and so looking at across the board risk exposure. So you can do analytics on top of all of your contracts together. So you're right. You covered those areas. Like it's the pre-signature and post-signature as the two words.
Right. So I understand that Gartner has created its own category. Before you didn't even have a category called Contract Lifecycle Management, and there's now that category, and you are considered the leader in that category. So what is it that differentiates you versus other players in this market?
I think looking at this more holistically, I think what iCertis has always followed is what is the value to the business at the end of the day? Where are the areas where you can move the needle? Like the contract is managing and building the contract is one aspect of it, but we've always kind of focused on the end business value that having a more efficient contract lifecycle management system brings in. So our strength is like we have approached this as a platform where it is not going to be we're going to have out of the box solution that does everything for you and in a silo, but it's been built from day one as a platform that's able to cater to different verticals with the same product. So I think one of the big differentiators is our design principles from the very beginning have been our same products supports a finance, supports a bank, supports a provider, a payer, it supports a retailer. It's able to manage contracts of all of these very different contracts, very different verticals, because the way the product is built is very much as a platform that allows for different kinds of contracts to be brought in. And through our SI partnerships, we are able to then configure these things specific to each vertical. And really finish the last mile because there are also integrations. We have lots of integrations with other systems within the enterprise, SAP, Dynamics, Salesforce, because just by itself the contract is just giving you one piece of the puzzle. So when you connect this with the data model that understands purchase orders or coming in from somewhere else, for example, now it's become stronger in terms of answering questions. So I would say one of the main things that we have, there's several things that differentiates us. So one is our platform mindset, that we want to be able to do a lot of things by able to be extensible and configurable. Our SI and ISV partnerships that then allow us to go build end-to-end high value solutions to it. And then I think we have been innovating at a very high pace. I mean, with Gen AI in the last 6 months, we were among the first ones to bring CoPilots to market, and we have a very rich roadmap right now on lots of exciting new things in Gen AI. So I think again, you have to keep continuing to innovate, so it's never done. So, but I feel like those things I think has given us the edge.
Got it. Okay, let me turn it over to Gowri. We'd love to explore more the AI and the Gen AI components that you're working on, that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Shirish. Hi, Sudarshan. Very
Hello.
excited to talk to you. You used two words when you started this conversation: intent and interpreter. Connect my mind through language, and the memorialization of the intent of two parties uh, in a language that's interpreted after the memorialization. That seems like your
Mhm.
definition of a contract. And it may be modern today, but it time immemorial that as humans have traded, they've always used some form to keep this thing alive. Now,
Yeah.
AI is dependent on large language models as we have been exposed to today. Looks like your company and what you're doing was tailor made for the way AI has come to us or come to everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
have language, you have intent,
Yes.
and you need interpretation. Seems like the
Absolutely.
you were like sort of you almost had
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
vision, like hey, get it done. So first is when you guys decided, hey, this AI thing has to be integral, that and iCertis decided that you need a leader just for AI. What was the sort of turning point, and what was the pivot that said the aha moment, saying, "Hey, we are ahead of everybody, and we could change essentially commerce in a company, right? The way they do business, which otherwise, as Shirish pointed out, was retrieving file system. That's you if there's a problem, you go retrieve it from a filing system, all the way from big filing boxes to your email inboxes. So how did you guys think of AI, given the landscape it came to the world as we know it now?
Yeah. Now it's a lot of it is before my time, so I will be very careful in saying it on behalf of others, but I'll share it in the way I have seen it, and I've heard it from others as I came and joined the company. So iCertis has been looking at contract intelligence for a while. Contract intelligence is a term iCertis has used for a long time. It isn't Gen AI; it's just intelligence, contract intelligence, and a big part of what dealing with documents is to understand what's in the document, and a lot of the content was in just PDF documents, right? So this is not even Word necessarily. So as a result, iCertis has always invested in technology to extract information from a document, and previous to this, it was a lot of NLP, lot of extraction of entities from OCR, PDF, tables, stuff. So before 18 months, there was still a lot of AI applied to just getting words out of a PDF document and in the most accurate way possible. And that itself was recognized, that was a need, was recognized by not just iCertis, but that was something AI was applied to. I think you asked the question on when was the aha moment, or was there an aha moment? And I think it's we all kind of saw this all together. Like this was one of the first times when something, like they say, it was a 20 years in the work and an overnight success um, at the same time. And I think things just came together where people looked at what that this is now really approachable to everybody. This technology, I mean, having worked in AI in the previous company, remember, we have had to explain what is machine learning. We had to explain before we could even sell anything. We would have to spend 2 meetings just explaining what this technology is. We don't have to do that today. When we go in, our customers push us. Oh, you can't do this yet. Okay, when is that coming in your roadmap? When is that coming? Because the proliferation of the understanding of what capabilities of this new technology is there is completely different. We've never seen this kind of a pace at which technology has been made, the market has been educated on a new technology so fast. And so I think part of it was that moment that saying we got to move fast. We have to. This can't be the pace as usual. This has to be differently run. And I think lots of companies are recognizing that. And I think at iCertis is also that this is different. The potential here is way different. It's a 10x more potential of what we can do. And like you rightly pointed out, we're all about language. legal documents are all about language, interpreting what's our obligation, what's our penalty, what we can and cannot do. So I think last year around summer is when we released our initial co-pilots. We did that very quickly, very fast after it was made available and we are built on Azure. So Microsoft released Azure OpenAI. We were one of the first ones to kind of, we were working on them even before it in pre-release form already, and we're able to kind of release this co-pilots. And then we got a lot of validation when we have had an amazing traction on these products in the last 6 months. I mean, this has been the fastest growing product line at iCertis in its journey of 15 years. And so that's been the validation that this is different, and that it has to be, like you said, focused on separately. We got to have a separate org. We got to move faster, and we have a more quicker feedback loop as well from the market.
Sure. So as you went into AI, at least from our viewers' perspective, right? Gen AI has been initially ChatGPT, now Copilot from Microsoft, and others are also doing something of similar nature, right? Other language models are releasing their own versions of Copilot or their own versions of ChatGPT. So when you look at the enterprises have rhythm, right? They're working on some rhythm, and change has been hard in enterprises. Technologies have come along, but they are quite happy with what they're doing, and takes a while to get change in. Why? First, for our viewers, just kind of take a simple use case of how you view your co-pilot working in enterprise, and then if you could expand on why enterprises are calling you as opposed to your salespeople calling them, saying, "Hey, this is our next product." What's change in the velocity of intake of your product? So first is, if you could just define so we all have the same understanding.
Yeah. I'll give in a couple of examples. Maybe one on how this technology can be beneficial to an enterprise, right? So the way if you look at a document today, just any contract, and let's say there's a service level agreement or an SLA language or a clause in a document. Typically, when you have to go look at that and say, is this good? Is this you're reviewing this document. Today, you can just go to a large language model and say, can you suggest me an alternate language for this clause, right, in this document?
Yes.
And that in itself is just 10x like technology advancement. But now we all like, oh, obviously that's not a big deal. We are like already we are all saying that, right? That itself is amazing. But the ability for you to just generate that in that. So if you think of it, that what is happening is the scope is the document, and the technology is just a basic LLM against a document. The way we are seeing this mature, is the next level question. A better question to ask than this would be, can you suggest me an SLA language for this document, an alternate one, based on the past performance of this supplier? Say you're doing a negotiation with supplier. Now you're asking an interesting question that you really wanted to ask, because you didn't want the same language for everybody. Maybe some supplier is really bad in delivery. They've missed 3 deliveries in the last 6 months, and you may want to have a tighter penalty or a bigger penalty and a tighter SLA for them because you've learned. And this information is not in the document. This is in the enterprise, outside the context of the margins of your contract, right? What would be an even better question to ask is can you I got an invoice from someone, and can you look at this invoice, compare it with the purchase order that this is for? I don't know which purchase order this is for. Can you go check if the goods were delivered on time and at quality as written in the contract? And can you also make sure that I am getting all the volume discounts and rebates and applying all the penalties for this supplier? And tell me if this number is right in the earnings. This is a huge business process today.
Yes.
And all of this now can be done with technology. Just because now we understand what's in the contract, we unlock that. We take data points through adapters through different parts of the enterprise, and we are bringing that together and asking that higher level question. So this is one example of what is now possible. So you can really have a connected, intelligent enterprise that is actually giving you the answer that you really want to ask, to the question you really want to ask, versus the question that you had to ask because that was the limit of it. So this is one example of how we see where the potential of this is, and this is not too far away. We are actually building this stuff right now. So these things is now within reach, and so that's to answer your question. Like this is what excites us. This is one example of, and there are several of these scenarios where the other one is on regulation side, where a new regulation comes in and you have a very short time now to go figure out across your supplier base, are you meeting these regulations or not. So happy to give you a little bit more on it, but that's one example.
Those are great examples. So, as an enterprise adopts, right, they're hearing about Gen AI from every possible technology vendor that they have, or even anybody they deal with. There's this, right. But you sit in the core of three things that you mentioned. One is my procurement. Second is execution of that procurement. Third is payment. You just in your example connected these two. Now, your partner in this case, OpenAI, Microsoft, will also have its own dynamics and others doing it. How do enterprises look at you and saying, hey, I would have to use your Copilot versus, say, Microsoft's Copilot
Yeah.
versus so on and so forth? How do they resolve that conflict internally, or how do you guys help them resolve it?
Yeah, a good question. And to be honest, everyone's learning. This is everyone's, and I'll share with you some of the things we are observing. With we're working very closely with some of the largest enterprises, so we are really able to get a front seat at some of these transformations that are happening in these enterprises. And I think it starts with first the acknowledgement that there is a lot of potential here, and this technology can really help businesses get more efficient and make smarter decisions. So then the question is, okay, how do I bring? Okay, I have this and I have this. I have Microsoft and I have OpenAI and I have 20 other potential LLMs. Not only that, I'm investing in building my own LLM. Many enterprises are also looking at taking their data and having training and building LLMs and experimenting with that as well. So the way we have seen this is, again, you have to approach it with an open architecture, and which is where the platform approach for us works out. So we're not saying you have to do everything within our product. So what we're saying is there is a piece that is not at the table today, which is the contract we are bringing to the table. Now, how do you take that piece of intelligence, you combine with the other pieces of intelligence that other co-pilots and other things are helping you with, and how do these things come together to solve a business problem at a higher level? And that is where we are seeing a lot of alignment and traction, because then you're solving, and this is where our SI partnerships help us, where you're solving really a top level problem where you're bringing one piece of the puzzle to it sometimes, and sometimes you're envisioning it completely, but you're providing one piece of it, and through partnerships you're completing that. More specifically on Copilot proliferation is something that we went through this in the I think in 6 or 8 months time. The industry went through the realization that we can't really have a Copilot for every single application. And I think even there's consolidation of having now a common Copilot that now again, whose common Copilot is the common Copilot? So there's further consolidation. But I think where it's probably going to head to is that it's going to attach to the knowledge worker more than it's attaching to an application where, it's your assistant, and it draws intelligence from various applications and various intelligence systems in the back end, but to you it's a common interface. And I think that it's going to surface in your office applications, it's going to surface in your knowledge worker applications, but it's going to have plugins and it's going to have connectors that all the other enterprise applications and applications like ours will feed into and provide their value prop. So again, this is all evolving, but we feel like it's going to get closer to the knowledge worker. At least that's my view as more of an assistant. You know what my calendar looks like. You know what I talked to you about yesterday, and so my context today, as I will expect it to be maintained. If I'm talking about invoice, or whether I'm talking about a contract, or I'm talking about booking travel for my business travel, like understanding across that becomes interesting. So
But seems like you have a core knowledge of how the intent of the enterprise is captured, at least on in their contracts, right? You
yeah,
by sheer position, you have that knowledge. Others have other knowledges, but not the core knowledge. And this is the only place where commerce is valued. The other places add to the value, but it is the only place where the value is affected or even multiplied, right? So in many ways, as a leader of iCertis for AI, you have both the problems, right? You got to build your own AI engine, but you also have to work with every other AI engine that
yeah.
comes into the enterprise. How are you looking at that, saying, because you got to build your own while letting others feed off you or feeding into you? One of two,
Yeah,
it's always so. How, as a leader, are you sort of looking at that problem within the enterprise?
yeah. I think it's a huge opportunity. To be honest, I feel like there isn't. I don't think one company is going to be able to solve the enterprise's intelligence and smart decision making needs. And so, but the way iCertis is positioned, as you rightly pointed out, as because we're looking at the intent. Like this is the reason for all of the other things that are happening, all the operations and transactions that are happening in the enterprise, at least from a commerce perspective, like the nucleus of it or the brains of it, at least the intent is in here. And so we do see us as the conduit to business value. And so the way we are approaching this is really, we are thinking of it as an ecosystem where we can, and we are doing this at two levels. One is at an LLM adapter level, like more concretely in our architecture, where we support all LLMs within our Copilot. So you could have an all, meaning also together in the sense of hybrid application. So we are embracing the hybrid LLM world at the level of models, but then at the level of plugging into the workflow at the right time. So if you need some information, let's say for example, you want information that comes from even outside the enterprise, like credit ratings of some companies or some financial stability numbers that are maybe provided independently. We are embracing an plugin framework, which a lot of the copilots are as well, where that can be plugged into our copilot. So we can then, in the context of the same question that I was talking about, like, can you suggest me an SLA language for this supplier, given the known financial risk of the supplier? And the known financial risk of the supplier comes from outside the enterprise, maybe from a service or subscription that you have to, that is a plugin into the iCertis copilot, for example. So those are the ways. I think I feel this is exciting that we get to be in this center to be able to, but it is going to be it is going to only succeed if we have an ecosystem and we make it easy to plug in this intelligence, because it's not going to be one model or one copilot that gives you all the answers. It's going to rely on this other data points from within the enterprise and from outside the enterprise as well. But that's how I am kind of aligning our roadmap and what we are building to be able to kind of be there to kind of nurture that ecosystem around our platform.
So it looks like your role of your positioning of open architecture and embracing the ecosystem is helping you in the enterprise. Instead of being saying, yeah, it's mine and you play in mine, you're saying, let's all play together. And eventually enterprises are going to demand that of you if you don't. But
Yeah.
looks like you are taking that as a fundamental philosophy of building your products.
Yes, absolutely. And also in conversations with our current customers and prospects, we are getting inputs and validation of, like, this is the way to kind of think about really bringing value. At the end of the day, we want to bring value to our customers, and if they have a model that they have invested in that they want to leverage in, then it makes sense for us to think about how can we leverage the investments they've already made while bringing in new value from our products. That's
Let me
working for
shift.
us. That
Let me shift the question to a slightly different. So you're a leader who's got both engineering and AI. So that means you're dealing with very smart people. On the one hand, you're in the trenches fighting the war for talent. On the other hand, you could be just closing the trenches because you don't need that many people as your AI gets better and you can processes get better. Look, tell us from as a people leader running an organization, how are you balancing this where you have to attract people at the same time you don't need as much as you had before simply because some of it is better done in the new world order.
Good question, and I think this is a very top of mind question for all of us working in this space, right? Because there are multiple sides to this opportunity, and there's an impact of, of these efficiencies as well. For me personally, on product and engineering side, to be very honest, I don't think that there is going that applies in terms of that you're going to need less people. I actually feel like this unlocks so much more potential to do that we are expanding to get more people to build more things, to be able to do more things from that. The skill set is changing. That I would say. I think there is definitely a shift in the skill set of the folks you need. With a lot of these, especially in the last 18 months with this new technologies, the skill set has moved up the stack a little. So there is some shift in the kind of people you need. I don't think there is yet a shift in the requiring less people, because I think the demand just catches up with the expectation catches up. Like what was expected to be done in 6 months is expected to be done in 3 weeks, and I think that's what ends up happening. And so I think that's one part of it. I feel so there's a change in skill set, but there's also a change in expectation of how quickly can this technology help me, and how quickly can you release a product and build something. And that's so if you have your GitHub Copilot, but you're also then expected to that as a result now everyone's a 10x developer, and so that I don't know, it's a good or a bad thing, but there is, at least on the product and engineering side. But I do feel like there is definitely an human aspect on the overall. If you step back and look at the labor force overall, I think lot of the ROI of Gen AI based applications is coming from the overall labor spend, right? So I think there is a bigger macro discussion here around how does that impact, and what do you do in terms of addressing that, and being conscious of that is the first part.
Yeah, I think that you uniquely sit in the space within the enterprise where you're able to both see what the contract or the memorialized contract says it has to perform at, and the savings that comes to increase value, right? It's one of those. But as you correctly pointed out, right now the savings is attributed to some labor force saving because you can do it faster, better, cheaper, quicker, smarter, whatever the setup, right? That puts it in a very difficult scenario because on the one hand, you need more of them, but you need different more of them, not the same more of them. So on the one hand, you got to kind of either retrain them or retrench them. But it's a because you have grown at a pace, at least sitting in Seattle, is incredible, right? If you look at the number of people iCertis now employs versus even say I don't know 6 years ago, it's just like incredible, right? So while you are also constantly juggling this, that's why I find it very interesting the way you phrased it, saying we need more, but not the same, more of the same, but more of more. It's a good way to sort of phrase it. And now you guys are spread all over the world. Is the talent that you're acquiring you go to where it is available because you already were, in multiple geographies for you to build this product. But is it making you go to more geographies, or are you able to find it? You're in two great geographies, right? You're in Seattle and you're already in India, where the two key hubs are. But other than that, how are you approaching this from a talent perspective?
Yeah, good question. I think last few years, and one of the outcome is that it really doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Yep.
Apart from when you sleep, when you want to sleep in the night or the day, it does matter. But we are primarily we are split between Bellevue, Seattle, as one of the hub, and India, Pune, Bangalore, as the other one. So I think that's primarily where we are growing, and adding to our teams. But we have hired folks from where we don't have a specific target, if that, to answer your question more clearly. But we are looking within US and within India. That's the two primary areas where anywhere within US, anywhere within India. That's where we are currently looking at. It is not that easy to find people who have experience shipping products, Gen AI products. I mean, that's
Yep.
just because that
Yeah.
there is not that big of a pool. So it is a lot harder, I would say, to find talent. The more senior architects and senior engineering talent and product leaders who have that mindset or who have done those kinds of products yet. So this maybe in another couple of years it'll be easier. But we have it's been much harder than before to hire, I would say, right now.
Luckily, you're aligned with Microsoft, and you're located in Seattle, so it's got to help you in some fashion. Yeah, you can now look back and say that was strategic, but it sort of
Yeah, yeah,
worked. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that helps a lot. And the DNA of the company has been Seattle all along, or Greater Seattle, I should say, and Microsoft, of course. So it helps in attracting the right talent. That's also. Shirish, back to you.
So I just had a couple of closing questions regarding the co-pilots that you have. I noticed on your website that you have three different co-pilots. And I was wondering, why do you need to have different co-pilots? Should there be just one co-pilot that does everything, and you can ask it all kinds of questions?
Yeah. Great question. And as you will see some of those changes as well. And like I said, we were one of the first ones kind of release co-pilots last year in summer, and just to be very explicit about what they do, at that it made sense to have co-pilots that are aligned to a specific value prop. And I think so. You'll see the Discover Copilot, which helps you discover things within the document. There's an interactive insights Copilot, which is more interactive, give you insights within the document and summarizing and Q&A in an interactive fashion. And there is a risk assessment Copilot, which allows you to look at your company policies in this document in context of your company policy. And as soon as you open up the document, it tells you these are the 6 risks that this document already has based on what you usually look for. So even before you start looking for anything, it tells you this, and then you can click on it, tells you how to mitigate it. So yes, you're right as we move forward, a lot of these different functions will probably be available through the common assistant or common user role based Copilot that is more closer to a legal user. A business user may want to look for different things. A legal user looks for different thing. A business user looks for different thing. A CFO might want to log in and look for a different set of things within the same set of documents, right? So yes, directionally, I think that makes sense. I think once we have right now are very clear to understand, and that helped us in being very clear about what they are for and how to use them. And that's why we've seen a lot of good traction there, and we look to adding more of these capabilities, I would say, whether we call them co-pilots or not, but these different capabilities that allow you to be more productive is kind of directionally where you'll expect to see us going.
Okay. Do you also anticipate an architecture where your co-pilots are interacting with co-pilots from other applications? Like the example that you gave about a supplier and getting information about their risk profile, right? That solution that is providing the risk profile information may have its own co-pilot, right? And so your co-pilot basically asks the question of the other co-pilot and gets a response back. And so do you anticipate that kind of an architecture in the future?
Absolutely. We absolutely. I think like integrating a data layer and then integrating an intelligence layer, and I think we see that moving up, because each of the system is, you're going to be able to ask the system of a better question. And that although there isn't a very good interface today on that, I would say, like, I hope that becomes more of a standard way to interact at the intelligence level. Because yes, you can send a natural language query today, but that's, again, working with natural language queries in that way. And if you have a big query and you're breaking it down into smaller and saying, okay, I'm going to ask this part of the query to one intelligence system, the other one, and then come back and then answer. Those orchestration is happening, but I think there isn't standards today. But I do anticipate that we will have to do some of this just from a technology layer in terms of, how can I break down my question? One orchestrator will help me break down my question, and then each of these providers of intelligence systems will help me answer a high level question themselves.
Right.
And they may have further breakdown of that question into their providers and so on. So I do anticipate that kind of a world is how we would, and we are already integrating with plugins, which is a very kind of an initial way to kind of think about this. Like, you can have 6 plugins and you can have a question, and then you can say, oh, I need to call this 3 of them. And the OpenAI is doing this, Microsoft's doing this. There's a lot of precedence for orchestration and agents of across these different capabilities. But to answer your question, I think a lot needs to be done to make this more seamless, where you can build an intelligence system that also plugs into some other intelligence system in a seamless way. What is your API signature, right, when you talk about intelligence, right? And I think I hope that there's some standard there that starts to become interesting, where you can plug in intelligence systems together.
Now, the last question on Gen AI, which is, prompt engineering, as you know, becomes very, very important. Knowing that you can even ask a question like the one that you framed earlier, which is, suggest a new SLA based on the risk profile of this vendor and how timely they have been in paying us, and how timely they have been in sending us product, and blah blah blah. It's, you have to even know that you can ask that kind of a question to get the answer. So how are you solving that problem?
I think prompting is a thing. I think and this is the thing. Like, most of these co-pilots actually will prompt you, the human, to say, hey, ask me this. These are 6 questions you may want to ask me.
I see.
Like, a lot of these and the way we are tackling this is understanding the user persona. And then we know that this user persona, when they log in, they are interested in reviewing these things. And so you can pre-configure frequently asked questions, frequently asked prompts, and you can in the context, kind of show these, just like autocomplete of queries and things. You can show, okay, you just asked me for this document. I'm sure you probably next want to ask me about this thing. And so there could be 2 or 3 of the pre-configured FAQs, frequently asked questions on for that user persona. And so you are asking it. So this is more of from a Q&A perspective, what you may anticipate. And then you learn. So you're also training the human to use the system in a way, because the way you write the prompt matters. And so teaching people how to write prompts automatically through your product is also an important part of the UX of the product, so that they get better answers. And then you go from there, and then you have like and dislike buttons on the answers, and then you feed that back. So that's at the user level. I think that's what you were asking. Like, how do you even know what to ask, right? And I think that is how the product has to tell you that these are the things I'm able to do, and because otherwise you won't know what to ask. You're right.
Right. Got it. Okay, one final question is just trying to understand, what is the future of the company? The last round you raised at $1 billion plus valuation. The markets have become, much tougher as we speak. The Nasdaq has obviously done quite well in the last 6 months. Do you anticipate an IPO happening soon for the company?
Yeah, I think it'll be a CEO question, but I think we are very much on the right track in terms of from a company fundamentals perspective. I feel like we're very strong, and we are also very focused on not taking that for granted. So there's a lot of work in terms of how do we keep growing at the rate that we're growing, and then all these we'll still be a company before or after IPO. So I think from our perspective in terms of product roadmap and portfolio and what we are building and our sales growth and all, I mean, we look at that as some point that will happen, but our strategies and our planning is on the fundamentals side, and so that doesn't change what we have to do on a day-to-day basis. So, but yeah, I think we're doing good. I would say.
Okay, very good. That's great to hear. So thank you so much, Sudarshan. This was a great conversation. It'll be very interesting for listeners to really understand how you are kind of innovating in using Gen AI in your product line. So we wish you all the best, and hope to see an IPO soon, another big IPO soon in the Seattle area.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting. It's been a pleasure to meet you and speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our podcast From Startup to Exit, brought to you by TI Seattle. Assisting in production today are Eesha, Jain, and Minee, Verma. Please subscribe to our podcast and rate our podcast wherever you listen to them. Hope you enjoyed it.